Now, one of the things that I prefer about broadswords to compare to, say, long swords is the freedom of action around the shoulder that the single-handed sword gives you. But it is true that some people do develop problems with their shoulder or elbow or wrist or even neck swinging heavy broadswords around if they're not doing it correctly. Now, as a gentleman of 50 years, I can't afford to strain my body, and this video is going to an attempt to show you how applying Equilibrio, as described by Thomas Page, minimizes the strain that you should be putting on your sword shoulder. Okay, so you shouldn't be hurting yourself, you shouldn't be straining yourself, and you shouldn't really be getting all that tired if you're doing it right. So hopefully this quick little video will demonstrate what I'm trying to convey with this. So normally when I talk about Equilibrio, it's in some sort of martial context about structure or power generation or something like that. So let's look at it purely in terms of self-preservation for your own frail body. So first of all, what is Equilibrio? Now, Page gives a definition where he says it means that your left arm should always be moving diametrically opposite your right arm, which is true. But I'm going to give you a slightly different, more updated definition, which is this. Equilibrio is the use of the left hand to manipulate the left shoulder to maintain alignment with the right shoulder. Okay? So when the sword goes up, the left shoulder goes down. When the sword goes down, the left shoulder goes up. When the sword goes that way, the left shoulder goes that way. When the sword goes that way, the left shoulder goes that way. And the left arm is the tool by which you train your left shoulder to move diametrically opposite the right shoulder. And even though Page is the only source that goes into explaining this in detail, it's all over the broadsword tradition once you go looking. So it's obviously something that was just so basic and widely understood that nobody ever bothered explaining it in detail except Page. Okay, they all just knew. Of course, that's what you do with your left arm. Are you an idiot? Right, so how does it work? Now, essentially, if I stand here with my hand rigidly on my hip or worse, behind my back and try and swing my sword around, this is all coming from the shoulder joint, okay? Or maybe from the elbow, or maybe from the wrist, okay? But even when I'm doing it from the wrist, I'm taking a lot of strain on that shoulder, particularly with a reasonably heavy sword. And that hurts. That's tiring. That's eventually going to cause problems, okay? So I don't really want to do that if I don't have to. Yes, it's a useful skill to be able to throw blows from around your wrist, but for the most part, when I'm throwing blows, I don't want to use my wrist, I want to use my whole body, okay? So the movement from, say, an outside guard to a cut one is done like that, okay? So the tip of the sword can make a circle. It could be a circle in that plane, it could be a circle in that plane. But as I make the cut, my shoulder is coming this way, so I take my left shoulder back that way. So what has my right shoulder and arm done? And the answer is virtually nothing, okay? This whole cut, the power behind the cut, the structure behind the cut, is using my entire body. Okay, I'm going from here to here. All I've done is change the angle of my arm from there to there. Everything else is coming from the feet and the torso. Likewise, if I'm going to go cut to that side, okay, I'm not going to do that, particularly on a lunge. Paige says that is rarely a useful thing to do. Okay, ideally, I'm going to go from here to here. And I just make a circle with the tip of my sword, which again could be in that plane, could be in that plane. And there's the cut. And again, my arm and shoulder have done that. That's all. Everything else is body, torso, and feet. Okay, so my arm is doing very little when I'm making these cuts. Okay, some more extreme examples are the rising cuts. Okay, cut number 3, which is the awkward one to there. Okay, if you try and do that, like, it hurts and it's weak and there's no structure or no power behind it. Okay, the rule is left arm manipulates the left shoulder to maintain alignment with the right shoulder by moving diametrically opposite. Right hand is going up and to the left, left hand goes down and to the right. So the cut is made like so. And my shoulders have maintained alignment, so it's no strain on my body or my shoulder or my arm or anything at all. Okay, really my arm has gone from there to there. It's just punched outwards. And that is quite comfortable and surprisingly strong. Okay, cut number 4, if I'm doing it on a lunge, okay, if I cut beyond there, up to there, you can see I'm taking my shoulder out of alignment with my shoulder joint out of alignment with the rest of my shoulders. Okay, and this is why people lying in this guard say they get tired. Okay, because that's comfy and in alignment and quite strong. Quite apart from the structural and thus martial issues of doing that, that's really tiring. I'm now having to use my arm muscles to hold the sword up there, which is why people say they get tired doing it. Okay? However, if I drop my shoulder, left shoulder down, I maintain this alignment. So if I'm making the cut, this is now one straight line into the ground by reaching down with this arm to drop that shoulder down. Which means if I'm holding this guard, I'm going to drop that shoulder down. Okay, now I will usually do it like that, but you can still see that line going down there, which I guess is another point, is that the left arm, remember, is a tool to manipulate the left shoulder, not an end in itself. If you want to learn this stuff, practice it deliberately, waving your left arm around like a demented seagull, but eventually your left shoulder will naturally move to the right position without the need to wave the left arm around. So if I want to be in a hanging guard, I do that. My shoulder has dropped automatically. I don't even think about it. And I can stand here all day and it's no different to that. I've done that. My torso, if you like, is doing all the work. So again, my shoulder joint is really there. It's there all the time. All the movement, that way, that way, that way, and that way, is all done with the feet and the torso and the movement of the left shoulder. So, in a sort of biomechanical sense, okay, we get full freedom of movement around shoulder, should you want to do it, but we don't do it by rotating things around our shoulder joint because that puts all the strain on the shoulder joint. We do it by using our whole body, okay? Boom, 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 okay? And hardly any of that is using any of my arm. My arm is steering it. It's my feet, my body, my torso, my shoulders, in that line that is doing all the work, and that minimizes the strain on my arm, which means I don't hurt myself, I don't do any insidious damage over a long period of time, and I don't get tired doing it. I can do that for hours because I'm using my whole body and not just my arm. So that, ever so briefly, is the biomechanical importance of using Equilibrio. Now, as I say, this is all over the broadsword text. If you look at it, so the big exception there is the Roworth edition of The Art of Defence on Foot, because as you can see, it's kind of there, but it's just inconsistent. But if you look at the tradition overall, you can see this in pretty well all the manuals from Page right up through the Napoleonic stuff, and even into some of that later cutlassy thing. And remembering, it's not about where you put your left hand, it's about the manipulation of the left shoulder. So different masters will tell you to put it in different places, but it achieves the same end. The inside guard, the hand could be there, it could be there, it could be there, depending on your source. Outside guard, hand could be there, could be there, could be there. As long as it is manipulating the shoulder in the right way, choose the one that you find most comfy. And for the love of all that is holy, do not stick it rigidly behind your back. That's awful. The last thing to say about this, which will address anybody who does Germanic or some Italian stuff who stick their hands rigidly behind their back, is this a purely Highland thing? Is it a purely British thing? Or does it exist in other systems? Now, the only other place I can find what looks like the same manipulation of the left shoulder is Vigiani. Okay, so if you look at Vigiani, his left hand is not stuck rigidly behind his back or on his hip, he's actually doing something active with it. The other place you find this is in Chinese swordsmanship, okay? So when you see Tai Chi people doing stuff like that, they're manipulating the shoulder in exactly the same way as the Highland stuff. So maybe find a good Tai Chi instructor if you want some more help and information in getting this right, okay? But hopefully that has helped. Hopefully that will prevent you from getting tired and or injuring yourself. And allow you to fight longer, and I hope you enjoyed.